If we look deep, deep, deep inside, we will see that there's a fundamental question mark inside that leads us to seek for self-worth and affirmation on the outside. And this question mark we are typically too afraid to answer. And that fundamental question is simply, do I have value? And therefore, am I allowed to exist?
So we'll speak today about self-worth. And this, the topic of this lecture has been for me completely life-changing. It was one comment from my teacher that really started a very profound process inside of me. And we aim to bring this wonderful ideas to you. Now, the game of validation has a great control over our lives. Yeah, we would work our entire life, we would make huge efforts, we would sell ourselves to get some validation from somebody we respect. Work all your life to be a doctor to please your mother. And you don't want to be a doctor. Yeah. So this wish for validation is fundamental, but what stands behind it? Okay, it's clear, we need food, we know why we need food. We need air, we know why we need air. But why we are so desperate for validation? And we are desperate for validation from people who are also themselves desperate for validation. So what's the mechanism here? Deep inside, we have a wish for value. We have a wish to bring value to the world and to know that we ourselves have value and are worthy to be loved and so forth. Now, because we don't really own that question, do I have value? Do I bring value? We don't have the courage to look at it, then we outsource it. And we say, well, I can't answer that question. I'm maybe too afraid or too lazy or not smart enough, not have enough confidence to answer that question. But he looks confident or she looks confident. Let me get their validation, their validation, their validation. Look, 4 people validate and say I have value, therefore I have value. And because of that, we can't really live our lives. And when we get validation, we are exalted. We are filled with energy and excited and I don't know what. And when we lose that validation, we feel passive, we feel depressed, we feel worthless, and so forth. When I was 8 years old, my soccer teacher, I went to a soccer club. Maybe I was 8 or 9, something like that. And all the kids in the end of the class, which wasn't the class, says, guys, play soccer, and he would watch us play. And in the end of the class, all the kids came to him and says, how am I? Am I a good player? Am I a good player? And he said to everyone, yes, you are excellent. And then I asked him, and how am I? And he says, you are excellent. I was exalted. I remember walking home, and there was a little mountain there, walking home, and I had this poetic description. I was 8 or 9. Saying, oh, this man, he opened the doors for a new era in my life. Literally, these were my thoughts as a child. And this is the power of validation. And what we hope to give you in this lecture is the possibility to harness, to own that power yourselves.
Why are we so agitated about self-worth? Why is it such an important subject for us? In psychology, it is quite a big concept, this idea of having a sense of self and a lack thereof. And having a lack of a sense of self is typically known to lead to lesser or severer cases of mental illness. One of these is called, as part of the so-called dark triad. Dark triad is several like harsh, difficult characteristics or qualities that people might have, and one of them is narcissism. And the narcissistic personality disorder, for example, the main problem of it is a lack of a sense of self and a deep lack of self-worth. feeling so unworthy that your entire personality shapes itself to only ever seek for validating yourself with how you relate to the world, with what people you surround yourself with, what objects you surround yourself with, and so forth. So it is a huge thing. It has a huge effect on our being. What self-worth do we perceive we have? In the Merriam-Webster, it says, self-worth is a feeling that you are a good person who deserves to be treated with respect. And if you want to, let's say, essentialize that a little bit, it basically means if you have self-worth, if you experience yourself as worthy, then it means your existence is valuable. So for Uriel, it was not just, oh, I'm great at soccer, I didn't know, that's cool. But it was like, oh my God, the gates of heaven are opening because somebody is giving me self-worth from the outside. If spiritually speaking, self-worth is the element within ourselves that will even just give us the aspiration to look at ourselves, to go for self-revelation, which is the end goal somehow of the spiritual path. If we lack self-worth, or at least let's say that we have a certain outlook that maybe we are worthy to a certain degree, only with that we can really gradually open the door to knowing ourselves. If we have this vision inside of us, and you heard it already from psychology, if you have this vision inside of you that you are absolutely unworthy, then what point is there to look for yourself? If it's like, if you have zero value, why to look? What is there to look at? There's nothing interesting there. And for sure, even if you're maybe like, well, maybe I have a little self-worth, maybe it's a little interesting, it will not give enough drive, enough aspiration, enough pull to the inside to actually deal with that big self that we are all searching for. If it's like, well, yeah, that self, that's not worth much, we'll not spend a whole lot of time with that. Self-worth is given by validation and affirmation, and you can get validation and affirmation in two ways. You can get it from the inside, an inherent feeling of, well, I exist, therefore I have value, and there's no other bridge needed. I exist, therefore I have value. That would be an inner affirmation and validation of one's self-worth that is simply inherent in your own existence. The second way of generating self-worth is to have outer affirmations and validations of your self-worth. There were done experiments with children, not harmful, don't worry. Sometimes we give you the rat experiments, they're usually awful, but this one is cute, well-ish. So they were putting the child and the mother in a room, and they would give indicators to the mother what to do with her face. And she would look at the child and in the beginning be there cuckooing, laughing, doing all the little interactions and so forth. Then sometimes she would be asked to have an upset look and sort of do some upset gestures and so forth, which was a little bit puzzling for the child, and I didn't like it very much. But then the worst was when the mother would just freeze her face. And she would just not react at all. And the child would flip. In all the cases, would just lose their cool and just scream and be so upset about that. So a child learns that from, or has it even hardwired, that not getting any affirmation, any reflection that you exist is very problematic. And a child also, of course, learns that it is safe and accepted and embraced and loved and so forth if it gets the feeling that the people around are happy with it, are attending to the child in a way that gives it the feeling like, oh, it seems I'm okay. Mommy looks kind and smiling on her face. Probably things are good. When mommy has an angry face, we don't want mommy to have an angry face because it might bring danger. There might be something up. So then if she has an angry face and she's looking at us, maybe we should fix something up, right? So it's this understanding that we get wired in quite early on. And then in Western culture, it gets like 100 times stronger because we operate a lot with these false motivations and false reinforcements from a very, very early age. So, for example, mommy is very happy with you when you clean your plate. Good child, I love you so much, you cleaned your plate. Of course, also, mommy is unhappy because you scream too loud. I'm very unhappy with you. Yeah, and we use it as a reinforcement tool. If you do so-and-so, I'm not going to validate you. If you do so-and-so, I will validate you. It starts to be a gain, a deal from a very early age. And then, of course, even more so, if you finish your dinner, mommy gives you cake and so forth. So starting to have actual deals with the child. Now, all of this is to say we are born with an inherent understanding that we exist, the so-called I thought. You have heard about this probably in other spiritual tales. The I thought is with you all the time. And no matter if you are aware of it or not, you are continuously associating yourself with it. You say, oh, it's me giving the lecture. It is me listening. I like what I hear. I don't like what I hear. I don't understand. I am the stupid one. I do understand. I am the intelligent one. I am always the one criticizing, or I am today the one criticizing. I love chocolate. I am this tall and this wide, and I have this history and this plans for the future. And also I know 1 + 1 is 2. And I know what I read in that book. Yeah, so all the time the I is involved. It is different when there is a paper on a table that says 1 + 1 is 2. Or if a person says to you 1 + 1 is 2. The consciousness that is within it identifies with what is said and therefore gives it this life that comes from association with the I. Now, this inherent self-existing understanding that we have would naturally lead to an inherent self-value. But of course, that self-value, that self-worth, that is just only based on, hey, I exist. Clearly, I exist. I have all these feelings and thoughts and stuff going on. I am simply. Therefore, I exist. Should be enough to give you an inherent self-worth, but it can be challenged with outer circumstances, outer experiences, outer validations or non-validations, and so forth. So when we let the outside question the self-worth that is inherent, then we start to get into this whole whirlwind of self-worth that we are finding ourselves in. Now, we are programmed as social animals, that most of us still are, except for the enlightened beings going around. We are programmed to survival, which depends on the group around us. We are programmed on asking ourselves, well, I would assume I exist, I have value, but let me just give it a quick check, because also I need these people around, and if they don't value me, then I have a problem. Gradually, we lean with our self-worth more and more and more on the outer world. So that at one point, we will mainly get the confirmation of our self-worth from the outside rather than from the inside. That then leads to all the classic effects of this need for self-worth. Instrumentalizing people, seeking for appreciation in all sorts of forms, pleasing all over the place, using people for years and years and decades, being used for years and years and decades, because maybe in the end we will get a little affirmation that we are worthy, and therefore it is valuable, it is reasonable even that we exist. It makes sense that we exist. This leads, of course, if you look around to, and also maybe in yourself, to moments of selling out your values, selling out your the way that you wish to be, trying all sorts of different maneuvers in order to get that little spark of self-validation from the outside. If you analyze a little bit your thinking processes, you will find that a lot of thoughts that you have throughout the day are based on that. It is the ego making sure to, through the mind, let you know, hey, it's very good. You saw, they smiled at you. You are deserving. Oh, did you? Oh, look how nice you gave the lecture. Look how nice you listened. Very good. Well done. We should question, what did you do? Nah, this is not good for the self-worth. This is usually internalized voices, also from our childhood and so forth, that the ego sort of picked up throughout the years and then throws at you in order to continuously measure what self-worth do you have in front of the world. And it leads to all sorts of behaviors and even storylines and so forth that can be quite, catastrophic, but at least lead to degrees of suffering. Now, the outer search for validation and self-worth is essentialized, if you will, an escape from the deep question of self-worth that we all carry inside. If we look deep inside, we will see that there's a fundamental question mark inside that leads us to seek for self-worth and affirmation on the outside. And this question mark we are typically too afraid to answer. And that fundamental question is simply, do I have value? And therefore, am I allowed to exist? Is it good that I exist? Now, when you touch that question mark, and even just the thought of the possibility that maybe the answer to the question, do I have value, might maybe be, no, not really, maybe, a little, we are not sure. Even just the possibility of that is so detrimental and painful because it is shaking the whole basis for your existence. Because if that question is not answered with, yes, you do have value, then you are putting a question mark on your whole existence as a self. And this, of course, makes life very problematic. Now, obviously it is nonsense. You do exist. It's already done. There's no question mark to that. It's already happening, right? And therefore, there is no actual need to affirm your existence from the outside. It is already happening. But the problem is that we are not becoming aware of that it is so. Once we become aware, that question mark inside, do I have value? Once we start contemplating what inside of us gives us value, once we start to be in touch with the existential nature of ourselves, the question mark dissolves. While we are not doing all of this, the question mark remains. Typically, the question of self-worth, self-value is triple in nature, at least. 1, do I have value? Clear. 2, am I giving value to the system that I live in, to the whole that I am a part of? No matter how you will define that. Uriah will speak about that more. And then 3, do I deserve love? Which is basically an extension of 2. Because if I get a whole lot of love and affirmation, it means that my system is taking me in. So, do I have value? Am I giving value to the whole that I'm a part of? And do I deserve love? Now, in order to feel worthy, it requires to seriously contemplate and then answer these questions. Only from there, real self-worth can really arise. So let's see how that is done. Hey guys, if you like this video, make sure to like and subscribe to our YouTube channel for more content on spirituality, Tantra and more.
And if you want to sign up for our online classes or for our retreats, you can see our website on the description below.